The EdTech Growth Summit. Leading the discussion around EdTech since last 4 years. Industry veterans, renowned CEOs, founders, co-founders, partners of various EdTech firms come together at the NIIT EdTech Growth Summit. The 2025 edition of the summit witnessed 15 plus EdTech leaders, 100 plus participants, 4 power-packed sessions around EdTech. Presenting some highlights from the 2025 edition.
It is my privilege to welcome you all on behalf of NIIT University's Center for Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship. It is truly wonderful to see you all gathered online for the 4th EdTech Growth Summit by NIIT. This summit is a key initiative under NIIT Group's EdTech Growth Program designed to empower and support promising EdTech startup founders on their growth journeys.
On behalf of the university, I would like to say that of the 4 core principles that the university has, 2 of them happen to be industry linked and the other one being research driven. These 2 core principles have let us kind of unleash all the student fury into the industrial world in a manner that one can imagine that over the last 15 years that the university has been standing, we have had 16 startups that have come from no less than 62 ideas that went into that innovation space. Of these, I am really happy to state that 2 of the startups have received awards from none other than the Prime Minister of this country. So it in a very, very big manner reinforces the commitment that we have towards innovation at large.
Now, it's not just learning. I think the world of work is changing. That's what we need to understand. All of us who are involved in learning need to understand that. The world of work is changing dramatically. Many parts of work, as we have done it, are kind of vanishing, but a whole new set of things are emerging, which mean that learning has to adapt, learning has to change. Who we teach about what is changing dramatically. And that, of course, is the focus of our attention. That is the focus of our interest. And our attempt today also will be to share as many of those things as possible. And it's for this reason that we decided that the keynote this year should have an interesting headline, and the topic is that AI changes everything.
I can tell you with great confidence that AI will change everything. How you will use it to change everything is really up to you and up to all of us. Now I can't see all of you, so I can't tell how you guys are thinking. But what I can say over the last 2.5 years of work that we have done, especially under the guidance of our Chief Learning Scientist, Dr. Greg Collins, is that there are 2 key insights that at least we have gained. And I'm sure as you work with AI, you might gain more insights. The 2 insights that I wanted to share that we have gained and that you might be used readily as you look at solving problems are: 1, with Gen AI, you can impersonate anyone, which means you can use Gen AI to play the role of anyone that you can think of. Now that could help you solve many problems. If I could see you, and if this was an interactive session, I would have asked you what might be situations where you use Gen AI to impersonate someone who is hard for you to get when you are building your learning programs. One that I wish I always had was a subject matter expert. It was very, very hard for me when I was growing up as an instructional developer to find access to subject matter experts. with Gen AI, you can impersonate subject matter experts. So you should think of what you could do. Another area where I used to have trouble when I was building programs was, how do I build really good role plays? Role plays tend to be really, really important means of training somebody on how to do something. For example, if you're teaching somebody how to sell, or if you're teaching somebody how to buy, or if you're teaching somebody how to give feedback, or if you're teaching soft skills, if you're teaching somebody how to ask a set of questions and what to do with the answers that the person provided. Having that somebody at that point in time becomes really, really important. And I think one of the things we've learned with Gen AI is that you can get Gen AI to impersonate that person.
Because we talked about the process of designing and delivering learning, and then we talked about the nature of work. So, bigger question, I think, for all of us involved in the business is, what does this change mean in terms of building up or retaining a profitability in the business? If many things are going to be done almost free, and if it's going to be possible for more and more people to do these things, including our customers, then what's the way to look at profitability, viability, sustainability with all these changes that are happening? And that's because that's the motive of every business. We have to be sustainable. So, in what sense is sustainability going to be in challenge, and what are some of the thoughts to deal with that?
We'll have to adapt in a very significant way. Now, for many, this might sound strange that I'm going to be an EdTech or I'm going to be a learning company without a catalog. You could have a catalog, but you don't need to have things in inventory. That's what Amazon did. That's what many retailers did, where they took inventory out of the equation. I remember way back, the key differentiator of Dell was that they would start manufacturing the computer when they had the order, as compared to manufacturing lots of them waiting for orders. So a lot of these things would upend business practices and put strains on how we make profit. But I think for founders, it'll be important to think ahead on what changes are likely to happen, how they can use innovation and technology to cause change and to create differentiation, both from a cost perspective as well as a market perspective. And then say, how would they create and sustain profitability? How can they bring value to customers so that the customers will allow them to make money?
So the topic that's given today is what are the challenges startup founders face? I'm just going to modify that just a little bit, because every founder, early stage founder every founder goes through an early stage. So I'm going to change that a little bit to say what are the challenges that a founder faces during early stage, because these challenges keep changing as you grow and scale the company forward, I suppose, but we essentially mean the same thing. So I'm going to start off with that. To do that, one request I have for all of you is to step back, go back in history and reflect upon your own, early days as founders, and just start answering the question. I'm going to start with you, Lovely. And I'm just going to ask you to just focus on two, when you throw yourself back to your early stages when you started Edureka, what are the top two challenges that as a founder at early stage that you faced, and why?
Sure. Thanks, Anand. And thank you, everyone. So, Anand, this question, right, which I'm going to answer now is based on my journey as well as based on a lot of experience I gained with fellow founders across. There's not specific to EdTech, right? Based on all the investments I've been making for the last 10 odd years, right? 30 odd people. I think the first one, in my opinion, is figuring out the business model itself, right? While this may sound a little counterintuitive, but if you're building for the first time, right, you need quite some time to figure out the right business model. Many times it takes a few months also to figure out what you're building. In my journey itself, it took us a year and a half to actually figure out what are we doing here, right? And in startups, right, you have to act fast. So sometimes you kind of pick up one thing and just keep going towards it. But I think there is a difference between being fast and being in haste. So that's what I advise a lot of people, that be fast. Jaldi karo, jaldbazi mat karo, if I can use Hindi there. I think that's one, that you need to be patient about figuring out the right business model. Second thing, which is, I'm sure all of us will agree to, is hiring the right team. Especially initially, getting the first few hires in your company is not easy, right? If you've worked earlier, you have that brand to hire people. When you become a founder, you have nothing, right? When you start. So the first few hires are very key to your success or failure. You may not fail, but it may put you back by a few years. So these are the two things I believe, right? Be patient about finding the right business model. Don't burn all your resources with one thing. Take your time. And second, hiring the right team.
I definitely agree with Loveleen, and thanks Anand for the question and NIIT for organizing this. There are a bunch of challenges, right? I think in an entrepreneur's life, I don't even think it stops with early stage. But team definitely being one. For me, it was co-founder, right? So, and I don't know if you remember this, but very early days when we were starting up, Anand, I had met you for getting your insights as well. So for me, it was more of, hey, there is a problem. I am itching to solve this problem. I haven't found a co-founder yet. I spent, I think, a good 6 odd months or 9 months looking, and at the same time meeting people like you. And a lot of them said, hey, if you really have a problem that people want a solution for, see if you can solve it regardless, don't wait. In my journey, what ended up happening is I then just started up without a co-founder. Originally as Career Ninja, and then as we pivoted into LearnTube, going back to what Loveleen said, right? Your co-founder is like, for me, my co-founder is my spouse. So as we pivoted into LearnTube, Gargi was the very skill set that I was looking for at work as well. And it made just sense for us to sort of build that from there on together. But I would say I probably spent a good 9 months trying to figure out how to start. And then because I started without a co-founder, we got some early traction, which attracted the right founding team in, which that then enabled us to sort of solidify, let's say, the team composition in a way.
In fact, one of the problems which I was going to, and challenges which I was going to talk about, was pretty similar, I would say. Finding a business model, or I would say rather getting to product market fit, right? Absolutely biggest challenge. And I think when we reflect, when like me and my co-founders reflect, we call it like, my idea will change the world syndrome is how entrepreneurs start, right? Like this is the problem and I have a solution, and it is going to transform the world from here. And you just get into building a product, an MVP, it is going to solve it. So you essentially start pitching to the stakeholders rather than learning from the stakeholders and the market first, that what is the shape and form in which the solution is actually going to work out, right? And I think this is a typical journey which every entrepreneur initially goes through, because they start off with so much passion around their own idea, right? And I think for us also, the initial year and a half was equally tricky, where we had an idea where we thought that this will democratize job opportunities for all tier 2, tier 3 college students, and let me push this to all hundreds of colleges in our country. And then when you are on the ground pitching to colleges, placement cells, directors, you realize the challenge is there. And it's a tough pill to swallow initially for a first time entrepreneur, I would say. And but the market teaches you at the end of it, and you realize that you really need to make something that they want, not something which you really want to push into the market, right? So I think that's the first challenge which I believe every entrepreneur will go through. And even if you get that advice, it is difficult to absorb it when you are in that time frame and in that period where you feel, no, this is actually solving the problem. Why do you feel where the gap is, right? And I think that is the first challenge which I feel is extremely tricky, and getting to that product market fit it's a journey. It's a journey in itself.
Can we address a large enough TAM at the same time, create an impact? And more importantly, in terms of defining our strategy to say what we do and what we don't do. So all in all, that having that common language of the mission, I'm sure Hari and Mayank would add in with other elements.
No, well said, Chaitanya. So, before I take stab at paraphrasing or summarizing, I would like to hear your thoughts, Hari and Mayank, as you navigated through this journey.
So, first of all, thank you. Thanks, Ravi. Thanks, NIT, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here with Chaitanya and Mayank and everybody else who's listening. The interesting thing about this panel, if I may just digress, is that you have three different entrepreneurs who built three different companies solving the same mission, which is access to high quality education. And I think through the course of this conversation, I'm hoping what the audience we get to hear are three very different perspectives, because there's no one right way of doing something, right? The fact is that all three companies are successful and they've stood the test of time, right? So I think that's just a fantastic perspective to get. To the question you asked, Ravi, in terms of sustainable startup, right? To my mind, in addition to what Chaitanya said, was extremely important.
And talk about. But I think just one point I wanted to just touch upon here, because you used the word sustainable, and I think profitable, sustainable, scalable is sort of an important aspect of the question that you asked. I feel that specifically in the education context, I agree with what Chaitanya and Hari said, but just to define it and narrow it down slightly more, I think the word outcomes matter a lot, on different kind of outcomes. Some people seek outcomes in terms of better job, better salary. Some people seek outcome in better credential, better validation, so on and so forth.
You can raise capital and still build a very large, sustainable, scalable, successful venture. You can even bootstrap your way to success, right? I think it really depends upon which is the path you want to take. And if you are raising capital, then you have to partner with the right set of investors, like Mayank and Chaitanya mentioned, right? They have to be long-term aligned by what people will pay money for, because that's not going to solve your problem.
Yeah, makes total sense. And Chaitanya, unless you want to add something more.
So how would you like to define the current economic environment, macroeconomic environment for fundraising? And the other winter is nearly getting over. Is this a funding winter, or it's normal times, or
yeah, it's a good question. This is business as usual. So I think if you're an early stage company, it's important to keep in. When I say early stage, I mean seed, Series A, Series B. This is business as usual. I mean, it's not gonna, let's hope that we don't go back to 2021 because that required the entire world to shut down because of COVID. This is sort of what it's going to be like, and it's very active seed market. Very active Series A market, Series B market a little slower. I think what has changed is the growth market. And actually it's changed because of a very positive dynamic, Vijay, which is the IPO market opening up for profitable Indian companies, right? Be they funded, venture funded or not. As you know, last year India had 300 IPOs, 80 on the main board. In fact, on a number of IPOs basis, India had more IPOs than NASDAQ and the next two markets combined. That's very positive because both for founders and for investors, because it gives the ability to take a company public. You create some liquidity for your early investors and your employees. And then, you basically build like for the next 30, 40 years, much like you all did for many years at NIT. the negative effect of that is for growth investors. This is actually a very good thing for founders, by the way. For growth investors, what is if you're a late stage founder, you're trying to ask the question, should I now go public or should I raise private capital? And given the kind of multiples that companies were able to get, now that has changed in the last 3-4 months. I think the long-term average PE has just dropped below 21, which is in the Indian markets, it's I think 20 point something now. But it was going to 24, 25 before, if you go back middle of last year. So if you put those two things together, really, there's never been a better time to be building a company, building a startup, raising capital in India.
So my question is, a person who has a vision for a native AI model over a period of time, because the person will have to come with lots of money for him to even think that native AI is a possibility. So would you also encourage somebody who has the potential to move from let's say using it in content development or personalization or in some other form?
I think the key thing is it actually doesn't take a lot of money. It requires a very deep domain understanding. Right? How does it really work? What are the workflows, et cetera, et cetera. And then it does require an understanding of the AI technology and being able to code an app, right? And work through, how do you work with different LLMs and how do you fine tune them? So what you need is you need good AI knowledge and you need good domain expertise. You actually don't need capital. You need some capital, but it's not really a lot of capital, right? I haven't really put this to test yet, but my hypothesis is if you have a very high caliber team, somebody who understands the domain, somebody who's very good at AI, who's built and shipped AI products, I bet you, Google or AWS, GCP, they give you $100,000 or $200,000 credits. You can probably build something and get it up and running, a basic version. And I think that is the beauty of all these billions of dollars that have gone into these models, both the closed models like OpenAI, but also, the open source models like Llama and now DeepSeek and many others like that.
Yeah.
It's not very expensive, but you do need deep technical expertise. You don't need a PhD in computer science from Stanford, but you need enough working understanding of AI, of how agentic, you need to kind of know that stuff, but not as much capital.
So far, we have had 3 growth camps at the university, and a total of about 26 founders or startup founders attended these camps, and they have gained enormously from these camps in terms of almost $900,000 worth of benefits from the Microsoft Founders Hub, the NIIT EdTech Growth Summit's technology partner. The representatives of InfoEdge Ventures, Helion Ventures, 314 Capital, Mela Ventures, Titan Capital, Blink Capital, and Bloom Ventures have shared their insights to the EdTech startup community in the past under the NIIT's growth program. So on this note, I would like to end my part of the evening.
So thanks for your time. Thanks to all the speakers. Thanks, Neha, to you and Vikas who's backstage and many others and managing things on time. We have a minute to go so we can finish on time. Back to you, Neha.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. With this, we conclude today's proceedings. We truly appreciate your participation and engagement. Have a wonderful time ahead. See you soon.